It is 2 days before Christmas, and this episode is dedicated to the DBA, to the sysadmin, to the operational staff who needs to be working throughout the holidays. Whether you're alone, without anybody beside you, or I can't keep a straight face. Welcome everyone to the Practical SQL Server HA show. I decided to cover this topic, and I really can't keep a straight face. I don't know why. Uh, there's a reason I'm not an actor. There's a reason why I didn't want to get into show business. I don't know. But this topic, today's topic, is something that has has become the center of a lot of the topics that I covered in the past, mainly because it is a struggle for people, especially if you have been assigned on call duties during the holidays. You're the only person, or you're one in a team of maybe a handful of people who need to be assigned on call during the holiday seasons, and it becomes one of your most frustrating and most unforgettable moment in your life that you ever don't want to do it again. I remember my very first on-call assignment in the as within the holiday season. Uh, I was an operational DBA. I was new to the company, and I was still learning the ropes. I joined the company sometime in November, December timeframe. So during this time, I was still trying to learn the ropes, meaning learning the processes, learning how to do the work. I mean, as far as SQL Server and technical issues are concerned, I've had good command of that. But the thing is, if you're new to the company, you're learning the processes, the culture, you're learning procedures that you have to follow. And unfortunately, though, a lot of my teammates went ahead and have gone on vacation, and we are covering 24 by 7 uh, support. We're providing 24 by 7 support to our customers. And when you're the only person on the team trying to figure things out while still being onboarded, this becomes a nightmare. I remember it was the 24th, the Christmas Eve. We were with family, and we're getting ready for Christmas Eve dinner, typically around the midnights. And everybody was gathered around the dinner table. We got extended family over, and here I was, plate on hand, getting ready to start having dinner, when my pager, yes, I did say pager, because we had like multiple means to get notified when an alert comes in. Pager, my mobile phone, and then email alert coming in. Plate of food on one hand and phone on the other, and I was trying not to put the phone in my mouth. While this is all happening, you hear people in the background having fun, enjoying the meals, enjoying really nice food. And here I was, well, at least I had egg rolls, 3 pieces, because that's all I could manage, because I was, again, looking at my phone and trying to figure out how to deal with all of a sudden getting like 2 dozen email alerts and notifications coming in from a mission critical system. On call assignments during the holidays can become a nightmare for you if you don't know how to deal with it, and you are not sure about what to do, especially when you're the only person on the team doing the on-call assignments. Keep in mind, though, in a mission critical system, when you're managing a high availability solution, you've heard me say this so many times. Not a big fan of being the only person taking care of a highly available system. I tell my customers I may be a high availability expert, but I'm not highly available, and that's just the reality. We have holidays, when you're supposed to be on vacation, when you're supposed to be with family, enjoying great food, and not have a phone on your hand. It's interesting. I was trying to picture that. Uh, Plate of food on one hand, phone on another, and my laptop is literally on my lap, trying to prevent it from slipping because I'm making space for me to make all of this happen. Right? Take a bite of the egg roll. Look at my phone again, hoping not to put the phone in my mouth. And this is kind of, again, something that you would have to deal with when you get assigned on-call duties during the holiday, right? Again, I don't recommend that you get to be the only person doing on-call when you're dealing with a mission-critical, highly available system. Even so, I don't recommend that for an extended period of time because, again, because on-call would just cause you to be I don't know. In my case, that became my worst Christmas Eve ever. And I told myself never, ever to go back to being on call again. That was it for me. Uh, when you've already had a grip on process, procedures, escalation, and all of these things, and SQL Server managing it, dealing with it, no big deal, right? But when you're being thrown into that situation, it can make or break your Christmas Eve. That's what happened to me, to a point where it was Christmas Day on the 25th, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still awake, responding to tickets, responding to alerts. Because what happens is that our monitoring tool will automatically create tickets that I have to deal with. And of course, with SLAs, I need to respond quick, right? That's why I want to share with you how you can deal with on call duties during the holidays, whether it's the Christmas season or Thanksgiving or other types of holidays. um, there are things that you need to know how to deal with in order to keep your sanity, right? In order to keep your sanity, just throwing it out there, right? The first thing, and this is something that I plan ahead of time, or I do ahead of time, is I plan my vacation days ahead of time so that I can actually block the holiday seasons and be on vacation, right? That's not something that I got to do with this job because I was just there for a few weeks. This was my first few weeks on the job, and the minute that I got hired, I looked at the calendar and I wanted to block time off during the holiday seasons because Christmas is a big deal for us. According to CNN, the Philippines celebrates the longest Christmas celebration ever. So Christmas is really a big deal. But in this case, I was not able to do that because I'm pretty new, barely new in the company, few weeks old, and so everybody else has already taken their vacation. And well, guess what? I get to pick up the slack, right? So there's no way for me to be on vacation because everybody else has already blocked their vacation months ahead of time, even before I joined the company. So one thing that you could deal with this in the future, just in case you haven't really planned it well, you should plan your vacation way ahead of time. And what I do strategically is I will book a day off before the holiday and book a day off after the holiday. Now, here in Canada, we have Boxing Day after Christmas. So we have the 25th, which is a holiday, 26th, which is also a holiday. So I would block the 24th and the 27th off. That way, if let's say the holiday falls on a weekend, or I got the weekend covered as well, I get 6 days off while only booking 2 days. Kind of smart. Uh, I've done this a lot in my previous job. So what I do is at the beginning of the year, January, or let's say I got hired on a June, I would plan off. I would mark the calendars. That's the first thing that I look at. I look at the holidays, statutory holidays, public holidays, national holidays, provincial, I would include that as well, or state if you're in the United States and you would there are specific holidays for your state. I would add that in, block my calendar, and inform my manager way ahead of time so that he's aware of it. And then I would ask, hey, have you approved it or not? Because sometimes he's just busy. But this helps me avoid, and I say avoid, being on call during the holidays. Don't get me wrong, I like solving problems, but if I can avoid the problems from happening in the first place, or prevent those problems from happening in the first place, and this does not just apply to anything related to on-call, it applies to anything SQL Server or technical related. I was just troubleshooting a failover clustering issue earlier today, and I was telling the customer, look, if this is a brand new installation, start all over again. I mean, there is no point in trying to fix a problem and then not knowing whether it's going to bite you in the back 5, 6 months down the road. Start fresh, keep it clean, right? Then in the same way, everything. That's why I'm a huge fan, a big believer of intentionally planning your high availability solutions. If you plan it well, you could prevent, on average, about 70 to 80% of the potential problems you will encounter. I mean, just look at the forums, news groups, Stack Exchange. A lot of the questions there, a lot of the problems that people raise, they could have been prevented if they were planned accordingly. Again, I love solving problems, but wouldn't it be great if I don't have them in the first place and I could avoid having those problems? That's one of the reasons why planning is very important. Uh, Plan ahead, plan your vacation days so that you block off holidays and not get assigned on-call duties. Simple, right? But unfortunately, this is not applicable to you if you didn't plan your holidays and you're now gonna be assigned on-call duties tonight, tomorrow night, Christmas Eve, and up until the new year. So let's get on with the second thing. Uh, that's one way of turning a very frustrating event into something fun. Like I said, I remember uh, trying to be aware of the fact that I'm holding a phone and a plate of uh, egg rolls to make sure that I don't accidentally I don't accidentally stick the fork on my phone, or uh, put the phone in my mouth because I thought it was egg rolls. And it's one way of turning a very frustrating event like that into something fun, and now I just laugh at it. So the second thing, and this is really important, the second thing that you need to do, and you can do to deal with on-call duties during the holidays, is to tackle tech triage. I like using acronyms, so I call this the triple T, tackle tech triage. I wasn't aware of what triage means early in my career until I started asking family members who are working in the medical field. Imagine this: you're in an emergency, you were brought to the hospital in an ER. There will be either an intern, a resident doctor, and the job of the resident doctor is to look at the cases in the emergency room based on the criticality, based on uh, most of which is criticality. Is it life in that situation, or is it something that we can, push? It's one of those episodes from the Daredevil series on Netflix where people were fighting in the emergency room. But the resident doctor, would uh, assess the situation as patients come in through the doors of the emergency room, have a look at them, do a quick analysis, and make quick decisions. Is this life and death? Is this life threatening? If it is, we prioritize it. If not, we'll set the expectations, like we'll give you this. It's not critical. We'll have a look at your case within the next hour and a half, maybe. But that's triaging in the context of an emergency room, right? Because literally, a misdecision or a trying to do everything all at once could spell the difference between life and death, literally, because people are struggling, and people who have complicated issues in an emergency situation is literally life and death, right? The good thing about being on call is that there's no such thing as like, you're not going to be dealing with life and death, unless, of course, and this is something funny, because when you're assigned on call duties, that event, that alert that comes in might literally be life and death. I had a client a couple of years ago where they were managing an emergency platform, kind of like 911 system, where they built the app with a SQL Server backend database, and they're running SQL Server availability groups for their high availability. And literally, between 10 seconds to around 30-ish seconds. That's one of the reasons why they have to improve their processes. They have to keep transactions short. They have to provide quick transaction response time, because it literally is life and death for them, right? So when you get an alert, let's say you're assigned on call, and then you get this barrage or flood of events, alerts, notifications from your monitoring system, assess, spend some time, look at the events that came in. This is one of the reasons why it is very important for you to have a documentation in place. The documentation should include what environment is this in. Is it production? Is it dev? What's the SLA or OLA, or operating level agreements? What's the recovery point and recovery time objective? Oh, is this for HA or is this for DR? Because, of course, your RPO, RTO, SLA, OLA for HA is completely different from DR, right? The document and the SLAs should be easily accessible when you get that alert. Of course, it's easy if you only manage like 10, 15, 20 plus systems. But if you're managing like hundreds, man, I have no intention of memorizing all of these things. Nope, I suck at memorizing stuff. That's why the document should be very accessible. You get an email alert, you get a notification, you get a ding on your phone that there's an incident. You look at it. The way the message is formatted should also dictate whether that is something that requires immediate attention, or you can just sweep it aside, maybe mute the notification for an hour and then come back to it later, because it's not that mission critical. Because, again, the last thing you want is to panic, try to do everything and anything you could think of, only to realize that, well, that's just a dev system that doesn't really need much care and feeding during the holiday seasons, right? So tackle tech triage, knowing how to prioritize things based on criticality, based on recovery point, recovery time objectives, your service level agreements, and operating level agreements. Even from the time an event, an incident comes in, an email, a notification comes in, up until resolution time, you have to be informed right there and then. It's tempting, and I know because I've done this before. It's tempting, especially if you're simply looking at your emails, to simply do a Control A, Shift Delete, and just delete all of the email notifications, because, like, it's noise, right? I've also seen cases where customers will turn off some of their monitoring because it literally is noise, and that's the last thing you want, right? You only do that when it really is necessary. For instance, the holidays, the developers at home, Christmas, vacation is big. People are taking advantage of it. So what's the point of having a QA server, dev server that you are monitoring, regardless of whether they're in an HA platform or not? Nobody's touching this. Like, the developers are not going to be coming back until like after Christmas. So have a means to identify if a page comes in, if an alert comes in, and how you deal with it. Is it mission critical? Does it demand my immediate attention? Right? Because I remember when I was on call, our SLAs dictate how we respond to those to those events, right? I get a page, I get an email alert or notification, and our SLAs dictate whether I need to immediately respond to it or set it aside and maybe look at it later, right? Of course, a production system that requires immediate attention, I would have to look at that immediately within a span of like maybe 5-10 minutes, because otherwise it will get escalated to my manager. And if my manager doesn't pick up, it will get escalated to our team lead, and then it gets escalated and so on and so forth. But again, knowing how to tackle tech triage will help you maintain your sanity when you are on call during the holiday seasons. And again, it's also one of those things where you get envious because, well, I'm supposed to be watching Christmas movies with you. The ugly Christmas sweater, drinking a cup of hot chocolate while watching a movie as we feel the heat of our fireplace. I don't want to get into in that, but again, it gets annoying sometimes. It gets frustrating when you can actually see them from afar, while you have to be stuck in front of your computer and trying to figure things out because you're on call. Not only that, all of a sudden you got like 26 other emails and 26 other events that you have to deal with, and now you don't know how to juggle things. All right? Tackle tech triage, know how to prioritize things, know how to categorize things based on their criticality, based on their RPO, RTO, and SLA, and knowing how to deal with it, right? The worst time to be on call, or the worst time to be on call is when you're the only person on the team who has to deal with a system that you have no clue about and you're not even capable of handling. I've seen this happen so many times that people got burned out, and then after Christmas they quit. Uh, one former customer that I worked with heard about him quitting his job, and I asked why. He was assigned on call on a platform or a system that he is being introduced into, meaning they had a consultant come in, built the platform, and it was being handed over to their team. And he was the person that was chosen to be the point person handling this. He's taking care of both the app side as well as the database side. The database side is running availability groups, multi-node failover cluster with multi-replica availability group. But he's not touched failover clustering yet. He's not dealt with availability groups yet. And here he was having to deal with alerts, notifications, databases failing over between replicas, and he didn't know what to do. Got burned out because now he had to deal with this, plus a dozen other issues that he has to deal with over the holiday seasons. Come New Year, he he quit, sent his resignation over. I'm never coming back again. This is very important because if you are being assigned on call during this particular time when there's not enough people on the team and you don't even know who to escalate the issue to because your senior escalation engineer is on vacation, can't reach him using his phone because he's out of cell phone coverage. It's that, right? Which leads me to the third thing. So the first thing is to plan. If you can avoid being assigned on-call duties, let other people handle it. Let the junior guys handle it. If you can avoid it, avoid it. Tackle tech triage. Know how to prioritize. Know how to assign criticality and importance to an incident or an event or an alert coming from your monitoring system. And third, this leads us into number 3, which is take care of yourself, right? When you're on call, when you're the only person on the team, you feel responsible for the entire thing. Meaning, it's like the way I picture this is, it's like you taking on the enemy. You got your suit of armor, you got your weapons and all, and I'm taking care of this, and I'm the one responsible. And at the end of it, you're so tired, you're so exhausted. I was in that case that Christmas Eve because I cannot escalate to anybody, and uh, I can't even sleep because that idea that nobody else will will be available to respond to an incident like this, that uh, idea that if something goes wrong, I will be personally responsible for it, and then when the whole system goes down and it's going to be my fault. Stop. That will ruin the holiday season for you in an instant, right? Keep in mind, again, we're not dealing with mission critical systems that would, spell the difference between life and death, unless, of course, you are responsible for something like that. And of course, if that's the case, you should not be the only person taking care of that, right? Uh, I've been in situations where servers went down, my fault, that is. I've been in situations, yes, I have to say it. I've been in situations where I caused server down issues. It was my fault. Nobody died, but I blamed myself for it. And next thing you know, I could no longer function properly. And that's why you have to really take good care of yourself. Um, I've During that time, I've learned how to take naps, quick naps, uh, in between. If because based on the workload and based on the events that are happening or the incidents that are happening, you kind of get a sense of uh, the amount of pages or the amount of alerts that you're going to get. And if you can, uh, take a nap, quick nap, 30 minutes, an hour. If you're afraid that you might oversleep and not be able to hear the alerts on your phone, set up like 24 alerts. I don't know why I said 24, but set up a louder alarm, put your phone beside a Bluetooth or plug it into a speaker that would like blare loud when you, of course, when you do that, you got to make sure that you're in a separate room where nobody's going to get awake. Because if you had a toddler and then they got woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning because you got an alert, well, now you have to worry about taking care of the alert, taking care of the page, as well as making sure that your toddler gets back to sleep. It's one of those things where you really have to um, decide how you can take care of yourself while taking care of your on-call duties. And like I said, that's one of the reasons why I told myself I don't want to ever go back to doing on-call, because it started affecting my health. It started affecting my sanity, where I remember my body started responding to a notification on my phone. It's one of the reasons I don't have notifications on my phone, other than a phone call, a ringtone. That's it. Uh, Text messages, anything else, I don't have any notifications because of that, and I blame it. Literally blame the on call. But again, take care of yourself. Eat well, sleep well. If you don't have an option to sleep for an entire 8 hours during the night, because you still need to take care of the on-call duties throughout the night, do something where uh, you know increase the volume on your phone, plug it to a speaker so that you can get woken up when you hear notifications. Set it up multiple times so that it doesn't stop until you stop the notification or the alert or the alarm. But again, don't ever forget to take care of yourself. Sleep if you can, eat, exercise if you can, because on-call duties can literally take a toll on you, especially if you're the only person on the team doing it. Especially when you can't even escalate because the person you're supposed to escalate to is on vacation. So yeah, take care of yourself. So these are the three things that you can do to deal with on-call assignments, on-call duties during the holiday seasons. One, if you can avoid it, but you gotta be intentional about planning your vacation days all throughout the year. I lump all of my vacation days during Christmas season because that's kind of a big deal for us and my family. But if you can't do that, the second thing is to tackle tech triage as early as now. Make sure that the documentation is ready for all of the servers that you're supposed to be responsible for. Have the inventory ready. Categorize them according to criticality, according to recovery objectives, service level agreements, operating level agreements, so that when an alert comes in, you kind of have a sense of how to deal with it. Do I immediately jump into it? Or can I just mute the notification for a while because it's not that mission critical? I'll go handle this one first because this one is on top of my priority list. So learning how to tackle tech triage, and again, most important of all three, take care of yourself. No amount of stress to help you get your job done is worth it. It's worth repeating. No amount of stress, anxiety, fear, and again, especially when you haven't dealt with something like this, you can start to become anxious. You start to become fearful of what my colleagues think about me. There's none of that is worth it. Got to put yourself first. You've heard me say this a lot of times. It's just a job. It's just a server going down. Your health is more important. You are more important than your job. So take care of yourself in preparation for the on-call. So maybe you'll get assigned on-call 24th of December, and then it's going to be at 9 o'clock in the morning, all through the 26th. Let's say 26th of December, 9 o'clock in the morning. Prepare yourself. Sleep well. Don't play video games the night before. Sleep well, relax, so that you can take care of it. And it's tempting to be always on your toes and waiting until that first page comes in. That just amplifies the stress even more. Just relax. It's Christmas. You don't have to stress yourself out because you're waiting for a page to happen, and then you can't sleep, you can't do anything else, you can't even eat. Take care of yourself. However you want to do that, take care of yourself. Calm yourself down. One of the things that I tell people when you're on call and you're dealing with a high availability solution and you've never dealt with it before, or even if you've dealt with it before, it's completely different when it's happening right before your very eyes versus you're simulating it. The level of stress, the level of anxiety is different when it's happening right before your eyes and you don't know how to respond. Even if you do know how to respond, sometimes it's the psychology behind how people deal with emergencies that prevent them from actually doing it, even though they have the skills to do it. Right? So those are the three things. I hope you are getting ready for the holidays, enjoying time with your family, enjoying time with the people that you love the most, enjoying great food, being in the moment and experiencing an amazing holidays. But if you are on call, I hope these three things will help you deal with the on-call assignments or the on-call duties during the holiday, and hopefully you'll come out of it a better person, knowing that you've prepared yourself, you've done everything that you can to be ready, so that when you get dozens of pages all at the same time, you know how to deal with it, right? That's about it for this week's episode of the Practical SQL Server HA show. Tune in again next week for another topic, and if you need any help between now until the end of the year, use that link on the screen. Schedule a strategy session. Maybe we can have a look at. We can start looking at evaluating at how we can make your high availability solutions stable, reliable, to a point where it's just coasting and not causing any issues. I've had customers where they've uh, put the work in, managed to stabilize the environment, that they forgot, oh, we have this because we haven't dealt with any emergencies ever for the system, because when it works, right? Use that link on the screen, schedule a strategy session. Let's have that conversation. If I can help you evaluate your entire infrastructure, your SQL Server high availability solution, so you don't get as much events, incidents, alerts, or pages, we'll make that happen, right? Use that link on the screen, schedule a strategy session, pick a time that works for you. Of course, my calendar is blocked during the holiday season. Of course, it will be, uh, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, 27 is when I'm going to be available. But again, use that link on the screen, schedule a strategy session, and let's have that conversation. All right. That's about it for this week's episode. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the holiday season. I'll see you again next week. Goodbye.